Thanks, Jason. Excited to be here. All right, let's jump right in. So here we go. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Sonam Dabholkar. And as Jason mentioned, I lead customer success operations here at Gong. I joined Gong a little over 4 years ago, and Gong has been in the AI space since 2016. And it's actually a really exciting time to be in the AI space because of all the technological advancements, everything that's been going on in the industry, all the thought leadership and the innovation that's been happening. So today, I'm excited to share my perspective on how AI can really revolutionize the customer success profession and the role that CS Ops teams really have in driving this forward. So with that, first we're going to talk about what is the hype around AI. We'll then talk through how can you actually, adopt AI in customer success and what are some practical applications of that. We'll then cover what the role of CS operations teams is in really driving AI adoption within the customer success space. And then we'll close with some trade-offs, some pros and cons of adopting AI, as well as some key takeaways. All right, so what is all the hype about? So AI has gotten quite the buzz, in the last year or so, and it seems like it's really all anyone is talking about. But it also seems like every company is really starting to incorporate AI into their product roadmap in some way. But it's not all just hype. So actually in a study from McKinsey earlier this year, they stated that about 75% of the value that generative AI can deliver really falls across 4 key areas, one of which being customer operations. And the total economic benefits of generative AI could amount to 6.1 to 7.9 trillion annually. So those are some massive numbers, and that really shows that there's some real economic benefits and some meaningful productivity gains from using generative AI. So let's actually jump into what all the hype is about. So this year especially, it feels like the advancements in generative AI are really an inflection point in our technological evolution and are starting to really meaningfully change the way that customer success industry operates. And I'm actually really reminded of one of my favorite quotes that I go to from time to time, having worked at fast growth companies and high growth companies over the past decade or so. And it's really the only thing constant in life is change. And when reflecting on this quote, I feel like this is kind of how we all feel in this position that we're in, where we're really confronted by AI and the impact on the customer success industry, and we're being challenged to really incorporate it into our day-to-day. And in my opinion, AI is not going to replace the CSM role by any means. I do think it is going to augment it and meaningfully evolve it. And I do think that it'll enable CSMs to become more strategic, focus on higher value activities, and meaningfully kind of up-level their role. So CSM teams who really embrace AI and embrace those changes that it brings to their profession, I think are really going to gain those benefits and have that competitive advantage. And then CSM teams who resist adopting AI, I think are really at risk of getting left behind. And I don't think any of us thinks that we've really, realized the full impact of, the value of AI. We've seen so much innovation this year, and it's been really exciting. But we're really just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of the innovation that we're seeing. All right, so let's now dive into how AI can actually be applied to customer success. So when I think about AI, let's break it out into 3 distinct categories. So the first is predictive AI. So predictive AI actually uses machine learning and statistical algorithms to identify patterns in our data. So really looking at historical data, looking at past events, and using that to predict or forecast future outcomes and future events. So it really surfaces those actionable insights to answer those really strategic questions that the business needs in order to inform a strategic decision or a pivot in business strategy. Prescriptive AI goes beyond that prediction. So it really, takes that prediction and asks, okay, what is the best next step or the next course of action to take based on that prediction that's made from the data? And so it's really starting to become more prescriptive and taking a lot of the guesswork out of how to operationalize those insights from the predictive AI. And lastly is generative AI. So generative AI has gotten all the buzz this year, and this is what has recently been popularized by ChatGPT this year. So generative AI can generate content like text, like images, based on the data that it's trained on. And it actually tries to create entirely new, novel content that resembles human-generated content. And so much of the future innovation that we're going to see will be from really merging predictive, prescriptive, and generative AI use cases in order to create these transformative, holistic AI solutions. And so that's going to be really exciting to see in the future. So now I'm going to dive into each of these three categories, and I'll start with how you can use predictive AI in the customer success profession. So again, predictive AI is really focused on looking at those past events, looking at historical data, and really using that to predict future outcomes or future events. And it really aids in that data-driven decision-making. So many of your companies might already have been using predictive AI. If you have, data science teams or strategy teams, and they're utilizing large data sets to, surface insights to inform, how, your strategy should look like for next year or answer some big picture questions. That's an example of predictive analytics and predictive AI. Some examples of this in customer success are, forecasting. So looking at historical win-loss data to really ask and answer questions like, how many new customers are we going to sign every quarter, to start kind of planning headcount and start kind of managing team capacity. That's one example. Another example could be, using forecasting to predict your expansion rate, predict your renewal rate of customers, predict, which customers are more likely to churn and downgrade, for example. Health score modeling and churn and risk prediction is really interesting. So you can analyze customer data like your CRM data, your usage data, to really determine indicators of potential churn and risk and flag specific accounts that have a higher propensity to churn and downgrade based on those factors, and actually build that into your health score model so that CSMs are able to focus on those accounts and get well ahead of those risks before they materialize. And so you're really making the health score predictive of those future outcomes. Conversely, with expansion prediction, predictive analytics can identify indicators that an account is likely to expand or renew, and also flag those accounts that are more likely to do so, so that CSMs can get ahead of those growth opportunities and really kind of prioritize, mining the growth in those accounts. And then lastly, with customer benchmarking. So CSMs are always getting asked the question from customers, how are we doing against our peers? Where do we fall in terms of, the outcomes that we're getting from your product in comparison to, companies that are similar, like in terms of employee count, customer size, use cases, the types of products they're using, and potentially industry as well. And so customer benchmarking has huge potential to be revolutionized by predictive AI. And you can actually use that to benchmark these cohorts of customers and then show customers proactively how they're doing against their peers. All right, let's jump into prescriptive AI. So as we talked about, prescriptive AI really goes beyond that prediction and actually uses that prediction to suggest a next step or the best course of action to take based on that prediction that it's made from the data. So again, it takes that guesswork out of, looking at the data, seeing the insights and the patterns it's surfacing, and then figuring out, well, what do I do next? Prescriptive AI really kind of suggests that next step for you. So we're starting to see a ton of examples of prescriptive AI in customer success, and I'm excited to see just even more in the near future. And so let's look at account scoring first. So account scoring informs how account teams prioritize their books of business, either based on, which accounts are ripe for that expansion potential, which accounts are more likely to churn or downgrade and could be at risk. And so it really looks at that historical data to inform that prediction, and then actually helps reps prioritize their books of business accordingly. And so imagine being a CSM with, hundreds of accounts in your book. You cannot realistically talk to every single account, in the same day or even in the same week. And so how do you even start to figure out how to prioritize? That's really where account scoring can be a tool for CSMs to better manage their books of business. Recommended contacts is another great example of prescriptive AI. So this is actually a feature that Gong recently launched and is one of our AI-powered features. So our product surfaces recommendations of which specific contacts to reach out to within an account based on analyzing historical win-loss data. And it'll actually say, like, here's, the 3 key people that you haven't talked to in this account that you should talk to because they are the most impactful in driving the deal forward based on what we've seen in previous deals that have won. And so that can be really great for CSMs to multi-thread within larger accounts, or even for, reps to drive expansion within accounts. Recommended playbooks is another really exciting area where I think AI can be super prescriptive. So as a CSM, you're running a bunch of different plays with your accounts at any one time. You could be running an expansion play with one account, a risk mitigation strategy with another account, an adoption play with a third account. And so how do you balance all of this, and how do you know which play to run with each account at any given time based on where that account is at in the customer journey, or based on the value they've gotten so far, what their use cases are, how they're using your products, which products are they using or not using. And so just looking at all this data, if there was a way for a playbook, an AI-powered playbook, to be auto-generated and pushed to the CSM, that would actually just take the guesswork out of action planning with an account, and would give the CSM a list of these proven steps, proven playbooks that have been effective in previous accounts that are similar to that customer. So I think that's where, prescriptive AI can really take CSM action planning to the next level. And then success planning takes this even a step further. So in the CSM role, CSMs meet with their customers at the start of the partnership. They document their business goals, their business priorities, and what outcomes they want to receive from the products they're using. And then it's really the CSM's role to build a mutual success plan to make sure the customer gets there. So what if we had an AI-powered success plan that really took the guesswork again out of this action planning process, and had proven steps in that success plan for the customer to get value from the product based on those outcomes that they wanted to see, and based on all the historical data of other customers that have also achieved those outcomes. So I think that would be honestly game-changing for the CSM profession. And then lastly, digital customer journeys. So digital customer journeys really take prescription to the next level. When you have so much data about your customers and your users' behaviors, activities, characteristics, and you're really able to mine that data, you can start designing very prescriptive digital customer journeys that guide the customer along this self-serve path that is highly personalized, highly applicable to them and their characteristics, in order for them to achieve value and hit those milestones along the journey. And if the CSM is not the one guiding them, but we have this AI-powered, digitally enabled customer journey, then CSMs can really focus on those higher value activities that should be more human-led. And then in the background, this digital customer journey can kind of supplement that human-led journey. Okay, let's take a look at generative AI. So recall that this is what has gotten all the buzz this year, and this is really AI that can generate content like text, images, or other content that is based on the data the model is trained on, and really aims to replicate human-created content. So when applied to customer success, generative AI is really starting to result in these massive productivity gains that we have been seeing this year are going to continue to see in future years. So you'll also see a lot of these like predictive and prescriptive elements in generative AI as well. And much of the future innovation that we're going to see is going to be from really merging generative, predictive, prescriptive AI solutions into these like holistic kind of AI powered tools. So I'll talk about a few of these. Call spotlights is actually a Gong feature we recently launched. And so after every call, we generate a spotlight that has key takeaways from the call, next steps, outlines, high-level outlines of what was covered in the call, as well as the ability to ask an AI-powered chatbot any questions about the call. And there's also other companies out there that are starting to come up with, AI-generated note-taking and summaries for CSMs as well. Meeting preparation is really ripe for an improvement in productivity. So CSMs are always in customer meetings, or they're always preparing for customer meetings. And they spend a ton of time, prepping for these meetings. And so AI-generated meeting preparation can provide the CSM with details on, who is joining that meeting? What do those attendees care about? What are their priorities? What are their roles? What have they said in the past that we should make a note of? And then what are some follow-ups from previous meetings that need to be covered in this meeting? So this is huge, and I think can meaningfully save CSMs time preparing for all their meetings. And then similarly, CSMs are always, writing emails, responding to their customer emails, creating emails to follow up on meetings, as well as creating slide decks as part of those meetings. And so AI-generated emails save CSMs a ton of time in just, creating that initial draft. And then AI-generated slide decks also save CSMs a ton of time, especially for those really data and like reporting heavy types of meetings. So things like quarterly business reviews, where you have to pull in, all these different metrics that show the customer how they've been doing, what metrics have they been hitting, how are they adopting your product, super intense kind of slide decks. I think there's a lot of potential to really improve CSM productivity by using AI-generated solutions. And actually, Matic is one company that does this really well. Self-service and chatbots. So AI chatbots are really able to be that first line of defense when a customer has an issue, if they have a question, instead of routing that to a human. If you could have that AI-powered chatbot successfully triage and potentially answer that issue or that question instead of it getting routed to someone, that can meaningfully, improve time to resolution and also improve headcount costs. And so CSMs can focus on other things while this AI-powered chatbot is able to really be that first line of defense. Search and content management is another big one. So CSMs spend a ton of time searching for relevant resources to send to their customers. So whether it's a best practice article or an instructional guide or something from the help center, CSMs are always searching for content for themselves as well, but also to send to their customers. And then customers want to self-serve too. So customers are always searching for content that is applicable to their use case or to where they're at in the customer journey or to an issue that they're trying to resolve. And so AI search can be game-changing. So really getting those personalized recommendations based on your persona, based on your use case, based on your previous search history, your activities and your behaviors and other characteristics can also really contribute to faster resolution and time to value. And then lastly, personalization at scale. So generative AI leads to better personalization at scale. And we talked earlier about digital customer journeys. So these are both prescriptive and generative in their use of AI. So really creating that path that leads the customer along this journey where they can achieve their milestones and achieve those outcomes. And then also using data like voice of the customer, sentiment analysis to make that personalization even more effective. Okay, now that we've reviewed all these different examples of how AI can be applied to customer success across the areas of predictive, prescriptive, generative AI, we'll talk about the role of CS operations. what role can these teams play in really driving this AI revolution? So CSOps teams are really the strategic operational business partners for customer success organizations. And they really partner with, post-sales leaders and CS leaders on strategy, and then execute on this strategy using tools, systems, processes, programs, and data. So what role should customer success operations teams really play in driving the successful adoption of AI across the CSM orgs that they support? So before we jump into some of those tactical recommendations and actions for CSOps teams, I just want to orient us around some of the operating principles that my team has used at Gong when we think about our role in working with our customer success org. So at Gong, we actually have 8 operating principles, and these are really the core values that drive our approach to work and our approach to decision making. But as a CSOps team, we've found that 4 of these are pretty consistently used day to day and come up more frequently. So I'll walk through each of these in the context of driving AI. So act now is the first one. What this means, I think, in the context of embracing AI is really just get your feet wet. Don't hesitate to pick a few, maybe 1 or 2 use cases to start with for using AI, and just embrace it now, right? I think the other concept that really applies here is favor the long term, and there's often a tension between act now initiatives and favor the long term initiatives. And I think AI is the perfect example because AI is here to stay. I think it's here to meaningfully change and up-level the way that a lot of our teams work, especially customer success teams. And so a lot of this requires a mindset shift around how do you think about AI as a means to drive your customer success strategy. It is a tool that you can use to really execute on your strategy in a more effective and more efficient way. And so as you start to get your feet wet with some act now solutions, think about how can I incorporate AI into our longer term plan to execute on this strategy and really incorporate it into some more sustainable processes and methodologies in your CS function. The third principle here is challenge conventional wisdom. So what this really means is get creative in the ways that you utilize AI to really make the biggest impact. And don't be afraid to experiment and try new things. And as we say, fail fast. And then lastly, create raving fans. So this is a big operating principle for us at Gong. And in the context of being in CS Ops, I like to think about this as internal raving fans and external raving fans. So internally, our internal customers are the CSMs and the post-sales organization. So we want to make their lives easier and we want to create benefits for them. And AI is one way to do that. And then externally, we want to drive value realization for our customers. And to do that, we do that through the CSMs. And so really making sure that as a result of driving AI with the CS org, they're then able to create that improved customer experience for our external customers. Okay, so let's jump into some tactical ways that CS Ops teams can actually drive AI adoption. So first, CS Ops teams should be at the forefront of evaluating and implementing AI solutions that really support the business strategy of the CS organization. So the first thing I would suggest is just identify, a few of those key focus areas or use cases where AI would make the biggest impact, and then really just try those out. So the key here is not to do too much too quickly. Don't overcommit. Don't, overwhelm the team. But really just identify a few areas to really kind of get your feet wet. Next is understanding the tech stack budget. So many of us are in the process right now of planning for our next fiscal year. And so understanding what that tech stack budget looks like, and then also evaluating the current tools in your tech stack today to understand, which of those tools, which of those products are actually building AI features in their roadmap. And potentially as part of your current plan, you can start to adopt those features without having to go get an entirely new tool. And so really doing that evaluation and doing that due diligence is important as someone in CS Ops. Third is, evaluate any solutions that would address your key focus areas. So once you have those focus areas, once you have kind of mapped out your tech stack, start diving in and evaluating those solutions. As part of the evaluation, it's important to understand how would you protect against risk. So how would your data be stored? Who can access the customer data? And then also establish a governance model for how teams within your organization should be using AI and when should they not be using AI. So be really prescriptive about how AI changes the roles and responsibilities of the CSMs, and make sure you have leadership buy-in on that. Make sure everyone understands the shift in expectations, and ensure that there's proper training and enablement of the team. And then lastly, I'm a huge fan of learning by doing and just operating in a very agile way, and making those quick kind of iterative improvements. So I highly recommend just running some experiments using AI, doing some A/B testing of certain processes. Maybe you have a process that you run and one cohort is AI powered, another is not, and just see what are those impacts, right? Like, did we meaningfully improve CSM productivity? What are some of the other metrics that were improved as a result of using AI? And then just make some quick iterations along the way. And so by doing all this as a CS Ops team, you can actually meaningfully influence your company's roadmap on how to leverage AI, starting with the CS organization and potentially expanding to other orgs. Okay, so second, after deploying and launching AI within the CS organization, it's going to be really important for CS Ops to measure and quantify the impact of AI, both internally and externally. Metrics are super important. And in CS Ops, we always have success criteria for everything that we launch. And so internally, some things you're going to want to measure are efficiency and productivity gains. And I think you're going to see these almost immediately, especially with generative AI on the customer success team. I think CSMs are going to be able to do a lot more with less. And a lot of their manual work is going to be automated. And so they can spend a lot more time on higher value, more strategic work that should be human-led, like building relationships, strategic thinking. And you'll also probably see some other metrics improvements, like improved capacity. CSMs can manage more accounts per CSM, and potentially some lagging indicators as well, like decrease in churn, improvement in expansion, growth, and renewal. And then you might also see improved employee morale and less attrition, because the CSM role is getting more exciting. It's really, getting up leveled to become more strategic. And so AI can kind of automate a lot of that manual repetitive work, and then CSMs will evolve to become more strategic and be able to work on more exciting things. And then externally with your customers, using AI is going to lead to just an overall improved customer experience. So we talked about delivering more personalized experiences, journeys at scale, faster self-service, more effective playbooks that help customers achieve faster time to value and deeper adoption. And so as a result of, quantifying or launching AI on your business, you're going to be able to see this improved customer experience and double click into a lot of these metrics that customers are hitting. And then you're also going to see stronger and deeper customer relationships, because CSMs can actually focus more time on building those relationships, because a lot of the other work that they're doing can be automated or AI driven. So all in all, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think we have fully realized the impact of AI. And so I expect that these are really just a starting point of the impact that we're going to see in the future. But it's really going to be critical for CS Ops teams, especially, to measure that impact of AI in order to prove the value and really justify future investment. Okay, just a couple minutes here. Let's wrap up now with some trade-offs of adopting AI and some key takeaways. So there is so much value in adopting AI.
Hey, Sonam,
hey.
I apologize for interrupting you, but we do have the next session that is beginning right now.
Yeah, great.
I know we had a lot of great questions in here. Looks like we've got a lot of people already leveraging you guys for this stuff. So we will pass those questions to you and get some replies out to these people via email. And then we'll share the deck and allow them to be able to review what you weren't able to get to here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we pretty much had wrapped up everything. So all good, and happy to answer questions afterwards. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.